approaching somebody, the onus is on you to try to adapt your style. And when you assess that, and I do that, I've used it for years now, and I will think, well, this person's expressive, and I start my self-talk, right? You know, listen, build the rapport, ask the questions. Certainly in my emails, I mean, it's still unfortunately a conscious effort, which means maybe I'm not fully recovered, but I did notice when I took it again, I'm much more spread across. So I've tempered it with expressive and sympathetic. And it's not that I'm not that kind of a person, it's just that I've got to, and actually my brother even said to me, he said, you know, I just never realized that there was an expectation. He said, I know it sounds crazy, he says, it probably sounds crazy to most people, but to me, we're at work. To me, we have deadlines. You know, I've got marketing, they're coming down on me, I've got this person, all I need from you is your information. He said, and I didn't know it was taken personally, that I'm looking for your information, I need to move on. He said, I thought that was just understood. And sometimes that's what happens. We're just not aware that the way we come across, or even that we have this way that we typically communicate. And if you take this again, and if you were to take it from how you speak outside of work, then you'll find that your answers can be different. And then just depending on where you are in your careers, things that you've experienced, it will change. It's not that it doesn't change. And it's just because you learn better to adapt and to assess. And I always assess in my mind now, so that I can be more patient, so that I can be more effective in my communication. And I've seen it work for a lot of people. Just, you know, a lot of people that I've had in the class, they say, well, this is what I've done differently, and this works really well now. And I think, you know, that don't take it personally came out pretty loudly and clearly to a lot of people, which shows that when we're too abrupt or if we're too business-minded, then sometimes we aren't building those relationships, and then we're not getting what we said we wanted earlier in our jobs. We want more efficiency across processes. We want people to like this, you know, this is the best place to work or stay there. Go ahead.
Yeah, we had the same kind of situation when we moved down. After we moved from DC down to North Carolina, and it's like it's so much different communication, and yeah, we were used to the fast-paced area. And when we moved to North Carolina, I remember we were in a Kmart of all places, and the girl in the checkout was just taking her time, you know. And my wife's like, "Come on, yeah, we gotta go, we gotta do this."
I thought you were the rudest people.
Yeah, and it's like you have to remember where we're at. I mean, this is a whole different lifestyle, everything.
That's a very good point.
And
it's true. That's a very good point. And we do have to either culturally, regionally, you know, this goes everywhere. I did this in Sweden as well, you know, and it comes out, I mean, some of the English, and I do it with a global client that I have, and some of the English doesn't translate well, but it all comes out the same. I even had someone that she was an account manager, more or less, with her external customer, and she said, you know what, I'm trying this. I have a meeting today. She says, and I'm always petrified of meetings with my customer. And so she was expressive, and he was bold. And she came back after that meeting and reported to the class. She said, you know, she said, it worked. She said, I always felt very uncomfortable. She goes, so I changed how I gave him information. I just put these bullets out. I went through it kind of quickly. She says, I hit the high points. She says, he asked me a couple of questions, and then he sat there and he talked to me for 20 minutes. She said, he has never talked to me. She said, he talked to me for 20 minutes. She says, not about work, we talked. She says, he's actually a pretty nice guy, and I didn't even know that, you know, so it does. I think you have to take that into account. You have to take the culture into account, the region, and you just have to take the personalities and the styles. And again, there's not one that's better than another. I know Bold's feeling pretty picked on, but it's just that we tend to move through information a lot more quickly and have different expectations. And it is good to slow down and get to know people. I mean, I think that it opens up a lot. Sometimes we learn, too, about people's just work practices. And so then we gain those efficiencies that we're looking for. So again, we need to be flexible and accommodated. Try to use a balance of styles. What I'd like to do now is just see if you have any questions or maybe a takeaway. What's something that you've taken away that you think how this can help you in gaining those efficiencies or in doing whatever you're trying to accomplish at work?
You have some rules for communications that are going out to people, lots of people, this, all the different stuff.
Yeah, that one, sometimes it depends on what you're doing in an organization. If it's like a town meeting or something, that's really tough. But what you can do is make sure that your managers are equipped, that have the one-to-one FaceTime, or maybe even the conference call time. The people that have the ability to, or the opportunity to speak with people in a different format besides that, maybe you have them start laying the groundwork, maybe you have them follow up. I think that when it's, what I used to do with this, and I just didn't think we had enough time with this, but I would have people just, I am answering your question, I'm just being expressive about it. But what I used to do is say, okay, here's the deal. In this company, we are now changing things. Our sales are down, so there aren't going to be any free turkeys at Thanksgiving, and there's no free soda in the lunchroom, and you can't cut off early on Fridays. I don't know, there were 4 things. I said, I want you to prepare this meeting and deliver it. So the Bold would come up and say exactly what I told them, right? They would just say the list. Expressive came up and said, you know, it's tough times and our sales are down, and I'm sure you agree with me that it's better that we have our jobs, and so we're trying to do anything we can to make sure we all have our jobs, but there are these concessions we need to make, and we're hoping that it's going to get better. Sympathetic kind of did the same thing. And then the technical told you, this is the percentage of sales we had and what we don't have, and if we cut these, then we should probably be able to get back our money in this amount of time. But I would always ask people how they felt afterwards, and it was really interesting, because Bold, when somebody started to talk about, aren't we happy we have our jobs, I hope it gets better, they didn't trust. A lot of times the Bold would say, I just feel like there's something they're not telling me. I feel like they're flowering this up so that I feel good for a little while and I'm pacified. And it was kind of interesting just to see the different styles that kind of responded in the same way. So it makes it really tough when you've got all of these different styles in one place. And so you've got to try to figure out how else I get the message out. If I'm not going to accomplish it, and you might even say something like, we're going to go through some information now. We're going to go through it rather quickly, or we're going to put up the key points. There's a lot more to be said, a lot more than what we can do in this communication, in this meeting. So here's where you can get additional information. Also, we encourage you to talk to your managers, something like that. They aren't really steadfast. You kind of have to balance it. You kind of have to address how people might feel about this, and address that you're not getting enough information out here for everybody, and then address the alternatives. Anybody else any different ideas that you use?
I have a question.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have another tip for him that might work well? Go ahead.
Just using your example, I think I probably would have started with email, or probably would just put the all bullets, and then created a space for each of those items with more detail.
Good. So
Technical, we just put the savings at the end.
very good. Yeah.
You cover all your bases.
Good. So then the people that are going to read it, they're going to go look for the detail. Very good point. I think that's a great one. Okay, I have a question up here, and then I'll get to you. Oh, did you have another tip?
Well, just because I can be very to the point sometimes.
Yes, you can.
I talk to Rayanne quite a bit. And what I found, if I don't really know the person, what I try to do now is say, I know I'm blunt and to the point, and they'll say, that's fine, let's start there. And then, so I do that, I do my points, and then we start talking about it.
That's very good too. I think that's good. I had to get to that place when I was still, leading and a director. I'd say, listen, when I say things, I say it like there's no discussion. But honestly, I want to hear your ideas. I want to find the best way to do this. So just take what I'm saying as a foundation and then build on it, because I just would deliver it. And when I did that, people would ask questions, they'd come up with new ideas. But if I didn't do that, people are like, okay. So I think that's very good to put it out there in the open. Good. Bill?
What is the assessment called when they use colors? Because red is analogous to bold.
Yes. Does anybody know the name of that? Because I know somebody that did the colors. There's another assessment.
This does a color assessment.
Disc? Do you think only disc? Because I thought there was one that was just
Insight
colors.
is the name.
There's another one.
Insight? Yeah, I don't know the name of it either. Because somebody,
Red, yellow, blue.
you're right. They line up really nicely, don't they?
Yeah.
Insight and disc. Okay. Oh, it is disc. Oh, I didn't know that colors was the disc thing. Okay. So maybe the disc. Yeah, because somebody told me once she was a co-leader with a team, and they did the colors. And she said that she and her co-leader were red. And when they would leave a meeting, they think everything's good, everybody gets it. They come back, and their teams were just in a whole different place. And they're like, she looked at the co-leader and said, is this what you got out of this? Yeah, well, that's what I got too. What's wrong with them? And then they did that assessment. And what they found is their team, green and yellow. And they were the red, so they just were totally off. And there's another one that's color. It's I use it. Diversity, the diversity in thinking styles. It's based on the whole brain theory. And it's a card situation. It's pretty accurate. You can get that on trainerswarehouse.com. It's the diversity game. But that one's colors too, where your blue is real detailed, your green is very organized, red is the outgoing, and yellow is the distribution. strategic, but most of them meet. Also, you can get this assessment, I think it's bestinstruments.net. I will provide, do you want, first of all, let me ask this. Do you want the presentation and do you want the lists that you made on tips? Okay, so I'll get those to you, Mary Kay? I'll get those to Mary Kay, but it's gonna be after next week, because she has a huge week next week, right? So it'll be a couple weeks before it goes out there, but we'll put it out on the website, the presentation, plus your tips, plus I'll put the reference of best. These are very inexpensive, these profiles. You get a nice profile, I just gave you a copy, but you get a nice parchment paper profile with the information on the back. And I think I haven't looked at my prices recently, but they're like $4 a piece for communication style. They also have leadership and different things like that. But the best way to make this work is do it with your team and open the dialogue. Because when we open the dialogue, like Sandy said, if I tell you this is how I am, then we can work through this a little better. Any other questions or thoughts?
Yeah, my score was 5.553.
Really even, okay, so we're not technical. You use a balance already. You probably are pretty good at assessing how people communicate and you communicate with them. Is there anybody that you get impatient with when you're communicating?
Technical people,
That's where your 3 is, right? So, yeah, so the details. And I think that's
just want
just,
to know the point,
yeah.
get to the point, don't take me around the elbow to the other elbow. You know?
And that's about our laying the ground rules. You know, sometimes we step back and say, why didn't we just say that? You know, sometimes we're afraid to say that. But I think that if we just say, hey, this is how I am, I can't work with all the details. So can you just give me the high points, and then I appreciate that you're this detailed. I really do, and I need you to be this detailed. But can we just work a different way with how you communicate it to me? Maybe something like that.
But technical, I think that in that technical and bold, I think I know how to get to the point if I have that time. But I know, like how you're saying, you're telling yourself to not be so bold and not to come straight to the point sometimes. I'm doing the same thing, but because it takes time to get to those points, you've got the bold person that's stepping in, and yeah, and so in order to not lose your place, you do kind of go through all the detail, even though you know you're in a group of people who know the detail, but in order to keep your position and be able to get to your point, so maybe some ground rules with everybody gets 60 seconds to formulate their answer or something like that, you know, the Jeopardy music plays or something. But I find that sometimes that I know how to get to the point, but in order to get there and say it the way I want it to be said, I have to keep going in order not to be interrupted, and somebody else jumping from
So maybe some ways of ground rules with the meaning of it. Good point. So maybe if anything else, once you have this awareness, put it out there and say, you know, here's how it's going to work best, or you know, whatever, something like that. Good.
What are the correlations of personality types? I mean, do bold people typically get along better with sympathetic people and expressive?
That's a good question. Yes, you're right. It's the dominant, and it's the.
I mean, so do a bunch of bold people in a room and they get together? I don't think so, right?
No, they probably like the other people better. Yeah. Hold on. You wanted to say something
I
about
was
that?
just sharing sympathetic, I study astrology as a hobby.
Okay.
And one of the things, each style seems to have they seem to match the elements, astrological elements.
Really interesting.
And so the bolds are like the fire signs, the fiery types.
Oh, that's funny because I'm a Leo.
Right. And then the expressives were the air signs, or the social ones, and the ones that like to talk. You know, they like to, communicate.
Right.
And then the sympathetics were the water signs. The ones that sympathetic kind of go with the flow. And then the technicals were the earth signs, are the ones that typically are very detail-oriented, very organized.
Interesting.
And so we did a little poll, and a number of the people in my group were actually
Their
water
signs came out in those areas?
Yeah, it's kind of
Oh,
interesting.
that's very interesting.
Yeah.
That is. I think I haven't really studied the personality side of the best so much. I can look and see. I think that it changes whether you're in work or outside of work and what you're trying to get accomplished. But I do think you're right. I think that a lot of times if you get too many bolds in the same room, you know, like they said, give orders and don't be pushy. You've got a lot of people doing the same thing. So I don't know. I will look into that. That's a great question.
I think what you find is if you actually map this out into a quadrant, what you find is that if you're, you best get along with the people that are next to you in the quadrant, but
Okay.
not the one that's diagonal.
So, is bow diagonal from everybody? That's the way it seemed. I don't know, but that's a really good point. I think, so if we did bold, expressive, sympathetic, tech, we have to go this way. Okay.
Just to add to my last point, I think the bold is probably get along best with the expressives. Fire and air typically support each other.
Ah.
They need each other.
Wow, we're gonna start a whole
Yeah.
science of this. I like that.
We have a whole new seminar.
I know, I do. Can I just talk to all of you after? So, no, that's good. All right. Anybody else, anything? Well, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for having me here, and thanks for being so participative. Great lists. I like them a lot.
I know we've got a survey that was passed out. If you wouldn't mind filling that survey out. We do want your feedback. We want to make sure that these programs are constantly improving, and we're giving you what you want as members of HCI. Don't forget about February 19th, our next member meeting at McKesson. We'll be getting that email soon. And make sure you turn in your badges. We recycle the badges if you drop those off. If anybody did not get a parking token and you parked in the visitor area, stop by the table and we'll make sure you get one. And thank you again for attending today.